Now on to the formation of the Lajjitaadi Avasthas. So the first Avastha given in Parashara is the Lajjita Avastha, which means the ashamed state or condition of a planet. So sometimes a planet will be in a condition that makes the person feel ashamed about something. And shame is a really troublesome emotion because it's an emotion that kind of roots inside a person and grows over time and gets worse and worse and worse and worse and eats away at a person. Shame, guilt, reproaching oneself, remorse, all those kind of things fall into the, this Lajjita Avastha. Also, doing shameful actions, like just doing wrong things, is also what this Avastha causes one to have to experience. Okay? So it's a very painful Avastha. It doesn't always cause as severe of material and external problems as some of the other Avasthas do, but it always is very badly felt. Okay? And sometimes you have to probe really deeply to see where that shame originated from and what the nature of the event is. But it's always something that is going to be painful to the person, that they're usually going to not want to let out of the bag, something they're going to be a little closed about usually. And oftentimes it'll be very deeply buried in the person. Okay? Now, the formation of this Avastha is a planet has to be in the fifth and with Sun, Saturn, or Rahu. So a planet has to be in fifth plus has to be with the Sun, Saturn, or Rahu. Those are, Sun, Saturn, or Mars. One of the three always malefic planets. That's a more minor type of shame. The other one is the planet is with Rahu or Ketu and also with the Sun, Saturn, or Mars. And again, look at this via conjunction. By with, I mean in conjunction with Sun, Saturn, and Mars. And remember, for the purpose of these Lajjitaadi Avasthas, we're going to consider planets conjunct that share the same Lord. Okay? So two planets in Gemini, one in Virgo, we're going to consider them to have the effect of a conjunction. Any of these, you're going to get a planet that's shamed, or in Lajjita. You'll find that charts of people who do atrocious things, like serial killers, will oftentimes have a Lajjita planet, or planets. So these planets cause us to do things that we're ashamed about. I've seen them come up in abortions and all these things that people feel bad about having done. Okay? So they can be a big burden for the person to carry. Now, the Lajjita Avastha is almost always going to be combined with other Avasthas, other negative Avasthas. Like when you have Lajjita, you're almost always going to have Shobhita or Shuddhita, which is, agitated or starved. But the results aren't cumulative. What it is you've got a starved planet, it's going to suffer, and also as part of that suffering it's going to have the shame. So it's not like they stack on each other. Read each Avastha independently, and that just means the planet is given an array of experiences. Okay? As always is the case with these Lajjita Avasthas, it gives a mix of experiences. Okay? But they're not cumulative experiences, right? Now, it's contrasted by Garvita Avastha, which is the proud Avastha, which we'll cover next. And that's the one Avastha that can sort of help reduce the effects of the Lajjita Avastha. This is really important to understand. Any other Avastha that's there is going to be there in addition to the Lajjita. But the Garvita Avastha can directly fight against the Garvita Avastha can directly combat the Lajjita Avastha. Okay, so the proud planet, the Garvita planet, can fight against the shamed planet. Okay? So, to measure a Lajjita Graha, you have to take the Shadbala value of the shaming planet, which will be the Sun, Saturn, or Mars. You take their Shadbala. That indicates the degree of shame felt. And that's to be subtracted from the Shadbala of the shamed planet. Okay? Real simple. Now, if the Shadbala value of the planet after its reduction from the Sun, Saturn, or Mars' Shadbala is less than the minimum required for the planet, then the shame will be felt, and it'll be noticeably felt, okay? And a trauma to some degree. It'll be a lasting bother to them. If, however, even after being shamed, the planet still meets its minimum Shadbala, say it's so strong that it's able to combat the effects of the shaming planet, then it's not going to be a problem, okay? There might be a shaming incident, but nothing that they're going to bury inside them and cause them to suffer throughout their lives and create disease. One of the things that shaming planets do, because they show something inside ourselves that we're really feeling bad about, okay, something we don't like about ourselves, something we're ashamed about, something we hold a blame about, something we reproach ourselves about, something we tell ourselves, why did you do that? How did you let that happen? Those thoughts over time create a lot of disease in people, okay? Now, if the Shadbala value of the planet after its reduction is less than 0, say it gets taken down to less than 0, then it's going to be a much, much more severe shame. It's going to be really, really tough, okay? The shame will always revolve around the Rashi in which the shamed planet is placed, and any house cusps that fall in that Rashi, okay? So if you have shame in a shame planet in the 10th house, there'll be something that you didn't take care of, some responsibility you failed in, or your inability to provide and take care of things and manage your life and be successful. There'll be shame revolving around that. The shame, and this is important, the shame will be more difficult to bear if the sun is starved. If the sun is starved, a person is more inclined to suffer shame. So if then they have the Lajjita Avastha, the shamed Avastha, that shame is going to hurt them more. They won't be able to deal with it as healthily. Okay? The sun-starving Saturn can also make shame very difficult. Okay, so if the sun starves Saturn, a person will not be able to handle doing wrong things as well. They'll feel worse about it. They'll be more they'll have a hard time dealing with it. And then it gets really tricky. Because what happens sometimes, when the sun starves Saturn, a person is so concerned about doing the wrong thing, so concerned about being perfect, being, not being bad. Their ego can't handle any negative things about itself. When the sun starves Saturn, then sometimes the ego can't handle anything bad about itself. So it'll create this idea in its mind that nothing it does is its own fault. And if you get a person who has shamed planets, and then they have the sun-starving Saturn, where they get this idea that nothing is their fault, that's not their fault, it's someone else's fault, then they'll be involved in shameful actions, doing bad things, doing wrong things, but somehow think there's absolutely nothing wrong with what they're doing. Their ego will actually deceive them into thinking there's nothing wrong they're doing. And that's the point, when you see both those things going on, at that point you can see major, what do they call it, psychotic qualities. Now when we think of a person being a psycho, we think of them as going out and murdering lots of people. Well, no, that's not what psycho really is. Psycho really means a person who's unaware of knowing that anything they do is wrong. So, yeah, that may entail killing lots of people, but it may as well entail doing other things that are wrong. Like, there's psycho women out there that think it's just totally acceptable to sleep with any married person they want. They don't consider that to be a problem, okay? They don't realize that what they're doing is hurting themselves and ultimately going to hurt other people in the long run. When we think of right and wrongs, we're always talking about right things are things that help life and help people in the long run. Wrong things are things that, though feeling good or seeming right now, harm things in the long run. Okay? And really that's the best definition of right and wrong, is we want long-term happiness for ourselves and everyone else. And doing certain things doesn't work out that way. Those are wrong behaviors, okay? And we're punished by them by having a poor long-term, the quality of our long-term future then becomes diminished. It's not that we go to hell, it's simply that our long-term future gets diminished. So psycho means a person who simply is not aware that what they do is bad behavior, wrong behavior. Okay? And I've seen that the most when I see the sun-starving Saturn as well as a shamed planet. So these shamed planets can be really, really hard, really, really tough planets. And you'll see in like serial killers and stuff, you'll very often see the sun-starving Saturn and some shamed planets, okay?